Yo, what's going on, Headliner Nation? It's your boy, the Doc, and we are back for the Week 8 injury update show. You guys know the deal. By now, I, an actual doctor, will go through the entire NFL slate, tell you about all the injuries that you need to know about for your fantasy teams, and we'll give you a little bit of an injury update right now. I am actually feeling a lot better. I had pneumonia last week and the week before, and I got some antibiotics, and I feel pretty good. And we actually have a player that had pneumonia this week as well, so we'll talk about him a bit later. But let's get right into it. A lot of injuries to talk about, and we are going to go through them all. No teams on bye this week, so we are talking about all 32 NFL teams in this update. I'm going to try to make it as fast as possible. As always, these are projections, what I think is going to happen, not necessarily what is a guarantee to happen. And I will not talk about every single player that is up on the screen, so make sure that you're following along with the graphics as well, because there might be a guy that I don't mention because I'm either really confident that he will or will not play, or it's just not a player that I think enough people are going to care about for me to go into a ton of depth on. But we're going to start with Thursday Night Football. Aaron Jones, dealing with that hamstring injury, was able to play, put up an okay game, not great, not terrible by any standards, but TJ Hawkinson still a week out on his return from last year's ACL tear. I think next week could be the week for TJ Hawkinson. As for the Rams, they got both of their star wide receivers back. Kind of surprised by this. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, both putting up pretty solid games in their first week back as well. Matthew Stafford with a huge game as well. So love to see the Rams offense clicking again with both of their wide receivers back. Heading into the early Sunday slate, we got Baltimore at Cleveland. The Ravens have wide receiver Zay Flowers to worry about. He's got an ankle sprain, has not practiced yet this week. On video, this looks like a high ankle sprain to me. The team never outright said that, but I doubt that we see Flowers play in this game. We've also got a couple guys out. Marlon Humphrey, I don't expect him to be able to play with his knee injury. Keaton Mitchell coming back off of the IR, got his practice window open, but I don't think we'll see him this week. As for the Browns, quarterback Deshaun Watson is out for the year with an Achilles tear. Not really much to say about that. Once you've torn your Achilles, it's pretty much over for your season. We won't see him until next season. I will be curious to see if we see him start another NFL game. He was not playing well, and this could be the out that the Browns were looking for from this horrible contract. So we'll see if they can find a way to get out of paying him all that money. I doubt that they will be able to get out of paying him, but they probably won't be starting him next season. Running back Jerome Ford, though, has that hamstring strain. He is not expected to play this week. Nick Chubb managed to return last week, actually led the team in rushing, but not a very effective week one. We'll see if he can bounce back a little bit better. Did get into the end zone, but we'd like to see a little bit more from Nick Chubb as he gets his wheels under him again coming off of his ACL tear. Moving on, we got Titans at the Lions. Titans quarterback Will Levis dealing with the AC sprain. He's going to be a game time decision. They're considering him week to week with this. Have to wonder if it's just a way for the team to bench him without actually benching him, though. Turns out Mason Rudolph, not really the answer there either. So I think we'll see Will Levis back at some point in the next couple weeks. Wide receiver Calvin Ridley's got a foot injury. He is not practicing. Not really a good sign, but let's be honest. If you're throwing Calvin Ridley into your lineups, things are not going very well anyway. Running back Tyjae Spears, deal with a hamstring strain. He's also going to be a game time decision. He's been limited all week. If he plays, he's going to cut into Tony Pollard's workload a little bit. Still feel like Tony Pollard is the only real option in this entire offense that you're thinking about starting for fantasy, though. As for the Lions, they don't really have any injuries to talk about, so we're heading straight in to the Colts at the Texans. Colts running back Jonathan Taylor back practicing in full. Looks like he'll be able to play this week. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman also expected to play this week. As for the Texans, they got a couple starters on defense not expected to play, but not really anybody I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about. We're going to go straight into Packers at the Jaguars. Packers wide receiver Jaden Reed dealing with an ankle sprain. So is wide receiver Christian Watson. I expect both of these guys to be able to practice, but they play this week. They are practicing this week, so I don't think there's any chance that they miss this game. Reed currently tied as the wide receiver 6 through 7 weeks of the season. I'm sure that your league mates will argue that no one really knows who the wide receiver 1 for the Packers are, if they're anything like my league mates, but just know it's Jaden Reed, and it has been pretty much all year this year and half of last year. So I think we have enough evidence at this point. Quay Walker's got a concussion. He's going to be a game time decision. The interior O-line is banged up, but I think they're going to be able to play for the Packers. As for the Jaguars, Travis Etienne dealing with that hamstring strain. He's going to be a game time decision. He's close to playing this week, at least closer than he was last week, but you're probably only starting Tank Bigsby if you're starting one of the running backs here. He remains the guy that you want to be thrown in your lineup. Travis Etienne, horrible season, just does not look like he is going to be able to find his way this year. Next up, we got Cardinals at the Dolphins. Cardinals did lose their starting linebacker, Dennis Gardeck, to an ACL tear this week, so kind of tough for the defense. But the Dolphins are going to be the story in terms of injuries. Tua Tagovailoa coming back from the concussion this week. I'm not sure if it's a good idea or a bad idea. I'm not personally evaluating Tua. I'm not making those health decisions for him. Just know he is expected to play this week. Hopefully he is healthy. Hopefully the team is able to put some things together, because we know there are a lot of players on this team that we are banking on for our fantasy teams, and Tua being out definitely hurt their overall production. One of those guys, Jalen Waddle, coming back from a quad injury. If you're looking for somebody outside of Tyreek Hill that really stands to benefit from Tua coming back, you're talking about Jalen Waddle. He's been basically a non-factor since week 1 without Tua, but there is hope. The Cardinals have allowed the 3rd highest PPR points per target to opposing wide receivers this season. I think Waddle could eat in this offense as the wide receiver 2 with Tua back. Let's see if we can get Jalen Waddle back producing for our fantasy teams. I'm throwing him in to a few lineups as kind of a wide receiver 4 or a flex option this week, just because I like the matchup. Moving on, we got Jets at the Patriots, 2 of the most banged up teams in the NFL playing each other. Jets have 15 players on the report, but quarterback Aaron Rodgers dealing with a hamstring strain and maybe just doesn't want to be playing football right now. He's supposed to play. He's got his binky back in Devontae Adams. We'll see if they can get the thing moving a little bit. A lot of players in this offense that we want to see produce for our fantasy teams, but if Aaron Rodgers ain't playing well, the rest of the team is not going to be putting up points. Allen Lazard has a chest injury, though. He's going to be a game-time decision. We'll see if he plays. They've also got both of their starting safeties expected to miss this week. As for the Patriots, they're pretty banged up, too. They've got 17 players on the report, 32 players between these two teams. Not what you want to see from an injury perspective, but there's not a lot of guys I want to talk about on the Patriots, so we're just going to move along to the next matchup. Next up, we got Falcons at the Buccaneers. Falcons don't really have any injuries to talk about, but the Bucs, they are hurting, man. Probably the worst week 7 that they could have imagined. Wide receiver Mike Evans down with a hamstring strain. He's supposed to miss at least the next 3 weeks, possibly even more after the team's bye. Chris Godwin had an ankle dislocation. He is done for the season. So they lose not 1, but 2 top 15 wide receivers from a fantasy production standpoint in the same week for multiple weeks, if not the whole season. You hate to see that for the Bucs. Running back Bucky Irving also dealing with a toe injury. He's been a solid producer the last few weeks, but he's picked up this toe issue. May see him out this week. Sean Tucker becomes a streamable flex option as kind of the pass catcher next to Rachaad White. Both Bucky Irving and Rachaad White put up good weeks last week when these 2 wide receivers were out. We'll see what happens with the Bucs and who kind of steps into that role. Cade Otton, another guy you might be able to find on waivers right now. He's somebody that is now streamable in most formats, especially if you're getting a tight end premium. Cade Otton needs to be rostered. He had a huge week last week without any other options in the receiving game. All right, last game of the early Sunday slate. We've got Eagles at the Bengals. Both of these teams relatively healthy. Dallas Goedert, though, tight end for the Eagles. Not expecting him to play. He's still dealing with that hamstring strain. We're moving straight into the midday slate, though. We got Saints at the Chargers. Saints quarterback Derek Carr has that oblique strain. He's still not practicing. Don't expect him back anytime soon. The team plans on starting Spencer Rattler again at quarterback, and he's going to have some options because wide receiver Chris Olave, coming back from the concussion, had a full practice on Thursday. He's ready to return. Taysom Hill also ready to return from his rib fracture. He got a full practice in on Thursday as well. We'll see what happens to Alvin Kamara's red zone touches now that Taysom Hill is back in the fray. As for the Chargers, well, Justin Herbert's not going to have a lot of options in terms of who he's going to throw the ball to. Quentin Johnson, Ladd McConkey, both expected to miss this game with injuries. Will Disley, the team's best receiver from last week, also banged up. He's a game-time decision. Joey Bosa, though, should be able to play in this game, so at least the Chargers are going to have a defense again. But expect a heavy run game from the Chargers. I'm sitting Justin Herbert. If you're planning on starting him, I just feel like that's a bad idea. Josh Palmer may be streamable this week. We'll see what happens in terms of where they throw the ball, but not a good look for the Chargers with two of their best wide receivers not expected to be able to play this week. Moving on, we got Bills at the Seahawks. Bills, not really a whole lot of guys I want to talk about. Got a couple pass catchers. Curtis Samuel, don't think he's going to be able to play. He's got a pec injury. Dalton Kincaid, he's going to be able to play. He's just missing a little bit of practice. But the Seahawks do have wide receiver DK Metcalf coming back from an MCL sprain. He tweaked his knee, expected to miss a couple weeks with this MCL sprain. Don't expect him to be able to play in this game. I know I said he was going to come back, but really he's coming back to the injury report because he's not expected to play this week. Moving on to the Bears at Washington. Bears have a couple secondary players that are not expected to play this week, but really it's all about Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. Jaden Daniels has a rib injury. He took a helmet to the ribs, left immediately, didn't return. No official diagnosis on what this rib issue is, but head coach Dan Quinn did say it was going to be a week-to-week issue, so I do not expect to see him play. Interesting note, though, Jaden Daniels did play through cracked ribs while he was at LSU, so it's not a question of if he's tough or not, but rather just the team choosing to protect their star quarterback. They've got a chance to win this game even without him with Marcus Mariota. I think they're just being careful with the young stud. Heading over to Carolina at Denver. This is really the tale of the two injury reports. The Panthers have 22 players on their injury report, including quarterback Andy Dalton, who got in a car accident this week, sprained his throwing thumb. He is not expected to play. Luckily, everyone involved with the accident is okay, unless you're a Panthers fan and you have to watch Bryce Young try to play quarterback again. Sorry, you're going to take a hit this week. Wide receiver Deontay Johnson dealing with a rib injury. He was listed as a non-participant due to rest on Wednesday, but then he had a rib issue pop up on Thursday. But I couldn't really find a specific incident where this occurred, so I don't think there's really much to talk about with this injury. It's the third week in a row that DJ has missed the first two practices to start a week. I say there's still a better chance that he plays than he doesn't, but just keep an eye on it. Running back Jonathan Brooks, though, dealing with that ACL tear from last year. He's technically a game time decision. They've opened his practice window. He's getting limited work in, but I think we're still probably another week or two out from seeing him make his debut. And the Broncos, they're pretty healthy, so we're heading straight into the Chiefs at the Raiders. Chiefs wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster dealing with the hamstring strain, not practicing. Don't expect him to be able to play. Kareem Hunt's got a rib injury, but he should be able to play through it. And then wide receiver Jacoby Myers for the Raiders, coming off that ankle sprain. He's going to be a game time decision this week. Limited practice on Wednesday. Didn't practice on Thursday, but we've seen teams use this schedule of a day on, a day off for guys returning from injuries, specifically the Raiders. They've done it with Max Crosby a few times now. I think there's still a good chance that Jacoby Myers is able to play in this game, even though he didn't practice on Thursday, but just keep an eye on his status today on Friday to see if he is practicing again today. All right, finally, last two games of the week, primetime games. First up, we got Sunday Night Football, Dallas at San Francisco. Dallas has two defenders that I still think are going to be out for this game, Micah Parsons, Deron Bland, both coming back from ankle and foot issues. Don't expect them to be able to play. Brandon Aubrey is missing practice because he's got jury duty. I've never seen this before. I still think he is expected to play because I don't think they hold court on Sundays, but just know he hasn't been practicing. As for the 49ers, they have a bye week next week. We'll see what happens. Big news for them. Wide receiver Brandon Ayuk out for the year with an ACL tear. Tough break for him. He wasn't having a great year. Did the holdout, got his contract, so at least he got paid. But you hate to see a guy go down for the year when he was just starting to kind of get the flow of the offense again after missing all of the preseason with holding out with that contract. Jordan Mason has that AC sprain. He's expected to play. Deebo Samuel dealing with pneumonia last week, same as myself. I understand what the guy is going through. He's going to be a game time decision. We do have that one thing in common, and that's that pneumonia almost killed us last week. He was hurting bad. You could tell he just was not breathing well, had to go to the hospital, fluid on his lungs. I didn't really have that. But I do feel for the guy because I was miserable as well, and I know what it takes when you've got pneumonia. Hopefully he has got some antibiotics and he's starting to feel a little bit better. It took me about 4 days to start feeling better, so I would not be surprised if we see him practice again on Friday and play this week, but it does sound like his pneumonia was quite a bit worse than what I had, so we'll see if they actually let him go, especially with the bye week coming up. They might give him more time to get fully healthy before they throw him out there. As for tight end George Kittle, he's got a foot injury. He was always kind of a risk in terms of George Kittle's always just a little hurt. And so he's banged up. I do expect him to be able to play this week. And with Brandon Ayuk going down, Deebo Samuel not being at 100%, he has got a good chance to be the leading receiver for this group. And so I'm going to head over to Underdog, use the code Headliners when I sign up, get up to $1,000 bonus cash on my first deposit. I'm throwing in some higher props on Underdog on George Kittle receiving props this week. Make sure you use the code Headliners when you sign up. Heading over to Monday Night Football, we got Giants at Pittsburgh. Giants, I don't know why, but I've had a million people ask me about Devin Singletary every single week in this video. I'm going to mention him here. He's not on the injury report. Don't really understand why anyone would be starting him. He's had a total of, I think, 9 points in the last 4 weeks. What are we doing here, people? Why are we asking about Devin Singletary? He should not be anywhere near your lineups and probably shouldn't be on your rosters, but for some reason, he's probably my most requested player over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think I just keep forgetting to talk about him because he's not good at football and he shouldn't be starting for your fantasy team. As for the Steelers, defensive end Nick Herbig expected to miss this week with a hamstring strain, and then Zach Frazier, the center, is out for this week as well. All right, guys, that's it for this week's injury update show. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton, and it really helps my videos out as well. I'm trying to get this injury information out to as many people as I can. If there's somebody I missed, let me know in the comments down below. Hit that join button, become a member of Headliner Nation. Join our exclusive Discord where you can get access to me, Jake, Kyle, the rest of the Headliner Nation crew each and every day of the week. We answer a ton of questions on our Discord. It's a great community. We don't allow any jerks in that Discord either. So come in, have a great time talking about fantasy football, get all sorts of extra goodies if you're a member of the Discord. And I appreciate everybody in the comments over the last few weeks wishing me well, wishing that I would get better. I am feeling a lot better, and I really appreciate that you guys cared about me feeling better. Hopefully, I will not show up on the injury report again this season. That's all I got for you guys this week. We will see you next time.
Analytics, off the chain, all the channels, not the same.